Welcome to the HR department, your front row seat to conversations about the modern workplace and everything shaping the world of work. Powered by HRKyle Services, your guide through the world of work. This podcast is hosted by Kyle Patrick Smith and Becky Smith, two passionate voices bringing decades of experience, real-world insight, and a no-nonsense approach to the issues that matter most to employees, leaders, and HR pros alike. From hiring and culture to leadership and layoffs, nothing's off the table. So clock in, tune up, and get ready. The HR department starts now.
Three, two, one. Welcome to this week's HR department. I am Becky, and this is Kyle, where you will receive information for smarter hiring, stronger teams, and better outcomes. Today's topic is a neat one. I really enjoy this one because you are unique in how you handle this situation. We're going to talk about candidate pipelines, not oil, candidate.
Right. So candidate pipelines, I've been a big proponent of this for a number of years. I've spoken on, I wrote about it in my book. It's something that's near and dear to my heart because it centers on a belief that I have, actually two of them. Position should never be transactional, meaning post a job, get candidates, hire somebody, close it out, and that's it.
Yep.
Sounds very impersonal, which
Yep.
it is. Number two, in my mind, in talent acquisition, it's never no. It's just not right now. And what I mean by that is when a candidate isn't selected for a particular position, that's not no. That's just they're not selected for that position. That doesn't mean they wouldn't be a good fit for a position now, some other position, or something down the road. And that's really how I look at it. And that's the crux of where talent pipelines, candidate pipelines, that's the crux of where it is. I'm going to tell a quick story if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. So a few years back, I'm in a corporate HR job, which I worked for 25 years in corporate HR. We needed a controller. And it came down to two candidates. We selected candidate number one. Candidate number two, again, under the principle of it's never no, it's not right now, I called him up, imagine that, because we had interviewed him for a few times. And I think, especially when you've interviewed somebody for a few times, you should call them and let them know they're not being selected. And the other thing you do is you have a conversation with them. You let them know the reason why. Right. Because you should have a reason why, and it should be legally defensible. If it doesn't, you've missed the boat already. But I called him up and I said, we've selected another candidate. I gave him the reason why we did that and so on. And I said, but we were really impressed with you. And I was personally, I'd like to keep in contact with you. Should something else come open here, something else in my network comes open, I'd like to let you know. And again, I value you as a connection going forward. So we did that. 2 days later, believe it or not, I was aware of an opening in my network, not at our company, an opening in my network that he'd be a good fit for, and I shared it with him. So he applied, and he was going through that process. Well, again, we go forward another 4 or 5 days, and turns out we hear from candidate number one that his wife has had a medical emergency and has some health issues, and he's just not going to be able to accept the opening. He's not in a good position to change jobs at that moment, et cetera, et cetera. So I hang up the phone. I go talk to the hiring manager. I'm like, well, here's what happened. But guess what? I've kept in contact with candidate number two. Mm-hmm. Would you be interested in him? He said, oh, absolutely. It was a tough choice. We chose one. We could have easily have gone with two in the first place. So I call up candidate number two. Of course, he's happy to talk with me. He loves the idea of having the opportunity because he really liked us as an employer and how he was treated through the interview process and post-interview because something rare happened. He actually got a call letting him know that he wasn't selected.
Right.
There was some good dialogue and so on. So we lost roughly a week, but I didn't have to repost the position. We got a really good candidate in the role. He was happy after he was hired. It was a very, very wise hiring decision on our part. So this is a small example and one that's more immediate on how candidate pipelines work. But I've shared with you before, I've got a million of them. Quite literally a million of them. I've got one where there were 7 years between meeting the candidate initially and actually hiring that person in a role. We were both in different circumstances at that point in our careers and our lives, but it happened.
Yeah.
So there's a couple.
Well, and what comes out of that for me is not to burn bridges. And that's on both sides. Right. As the candidate, don't burn the bridges, because you never know. The next week they could call you back. The next month they could call you and say, hey, we have this role now.
Yeah.
And on the employer side, because burning the bridges could ruin your brand.
Oh, it does. It does. How many messages have we gotten over the years? We've heard, I just rather not work at XYZ company because of how they treated me during the interview, or they didn't have the courtesy to call me. And I even followed up with the hiring manager and they never called me back. Candidates remember this. You can think, oh, they'll forget. If they really want to work, they'll come work for you. That's really not true. Candidates remember. And, the other thing, too, I like to have the dilemma of not having to post jobs.
Yes.
And when you build good candidate relationships and people really want to work for you, it's amazing how easy recruiting becomes.
Well, and that was going to be one of my topics I was going to talk to you about, was the not posting, because that's something very unique to you. And again, I'm sure many, many HR people don't do that. Talk about that, where you don't have to post jobs.
So here's candidate pipelines. Here's maintaining and nurturing and fostering those relationships with your candidates. So especially over the last few years of working in corporate HR, I wasn't posting a lot of positions because I had this network that when I had something open, that was my first start. That's where I would go to first. And it's such a nice position when a hiring manager comes to you and says, I need this. And you can go back to them an hour or so later and say, Becky, guess what? I've got 5 people here. I think they'd all be good people for you to consider. Let me know what you think. Okay, because you've nurtured those relationships with individuals. You've gotten to know them and you've kept in contact. You've kept this good thing. You haven't burned a bridge with them. You've had good communication. You've done your networking beyond this, because these candidates better. This is the other thing that it does is makes hiring easier, faster, more effective, all of these good things, because you've gotten to know the candidate, they've gotten to know you, they really like the company. There's a chance to do, interviewing when nobody's really interviewing.
Right.
So it just makes for quicker hiring, better hiring. It's a lot better situation. And again, your brand is doing the work at that point.
Yeah, it's smarter hiring and better outcomes.
Yeah, that sounds like a good tagline.
So we even have now, we're working with a client who has 2 positions that she needs to fill. And I did put something out on LinkedIn, but we instantly knew of people in our pipeline and I've reached out to them and they're like, yes, I would love to do that. So I have 4 candidates to present to her within less than 3 or 4 days.
Yep. One of them is a candidate or a gentleman that I've known for a few years now. I've kept in contact with him, have a good relationship with him. I've nurtured that relationship that we have. Because that's what I do. The other one is a young lady whose father I met at an event that Becky and I went to at Kent State. And we told about what we did and got to know him a little bit better. He referred his daughter just to talk to me. There was no job opening at that point. There was nothing. She's looking for work. It was an opportunity for me to meet somebody and talk with them. I was very impressed with her and so on. So now, again, you fast forward in a very short period of time. Now we've got somebody that we've gotten to know really well that we can share with a client. Because the other thing is, on this recruiting side, we want to know who we're sharing. We want to have a good feeling that, hey, I'm sharing this person with Becky. I know who they are. They're smart. They're going to interview well. They're going to do all these things. How do I know that? Because I've gotten to know them over time. It just makes all sides of this so much easier. And guess what? It's so much more cost effective. Let's get past the feel good part of this. This is cost-effective hiring because the investment, quite honestly, is minimal. It's very minimal over a period of time to conduct yourself in the talent acquisition world like this.
Right, and I am really deep into LinkedIn, and I use my connections are people who are hiring because I'm looking for our candidates, our clients. I'm looking for jobs for them, and it's a great way, to promote your business, to promote what you're hiring. But there's also that back part of that number one, they probably don't have a pipeline,
right?
And number 2, the extra work they're going to have to do once 50 people apply to the job.
Right.
So that's another good reason to have that. So
it's a time of going into the systems, reviewing the resumes, talking to people, doing all this extra work versus, hey, take a look at these 5 people that I've known for several years. Does anybody here look of interest to you?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, well, actually more than that, 999,000 times out of 100,000, those are all good candidates that they're willing to consider, and we can hire from it.
Well, and the thing is we don't actually hire people, but I'm going to talk about Joanne Fabrics.
Yeah.
And we did a couple of events there. We got a list of people and we put them in a little table as to what their careers were, what the jobs they wanted, what careers they were. So anytime I would see something on LinkedIn, I tagged those people in that category, in marketing, accounting, whatever the job was, so that they could see what's out there. And, you know, that's a pipeline right there.
Well, and the thing I want to hit on here too is some of these examples we're talking about benefit our business from a revenue standpoint. Right. If we have a candidate, we place them at a company, and the company pays us a fee and so on. But part of what Becky's sharing is another part that we do. We're happy to get people working sometimes, even if it doesn't benefit us financially. Those Joanne people, I don't know if we've got any placement fees out of that, because that's not what it's totally about. It's about getting people back to work and making connections between people so that a company gets a really good hire and a good person finds a really good job. So that's a big part of our business too. And you've got to look at this beyond transactional. And I say that time and again. If you're in HR and it's talent recruiting, that's just transactional for you. Have a job, put a person. You've chosen the wrong field. Just like I say, if you can't have an honest, open conversation with a candidate to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to hire you. Again, you're in the wrong field because you're afraid to have difficult conversations and you don't want to deal with that, or you don't have the quote unquote time. You've chosen the wrong profession. Choose something else where people aren't involved. Because when it comes to people, it's amazing what a little bit of kindness and decency can do and how far it gets you.
And what is the H in AR?
Well, it's human. And that's what we're supposed to be really good at. There's a reason why the H is first. Because we should be focused on these relationships and on the people.
Exactly.
And who they are and what they're about and what they want to do and their goals and their aspirations for life and so on.
So if you're interested, we have a pipeline. Kyle has thousands and thousands probably. Mine's a little bit shorter at this point, but we have pipelines. If you're looking to fill positions, to hire people, you know, let us know. Contact us, and we can definitely do that. So,
and we're really good at helping you adjust your talent acquisition practices. You know, if you're the kind of organization that just struggles to find good people, and it's this constant transactional cycle that you're caught into, bring us in. Let us take a look at what you're doing and interject some new creative ideas into that to make recruiting and talent acquisition a lot easier for you. So we can help you in a lot of ways under this umbrella known as talent acquisition.
And that return on investment, because they're going to, with our help, they're going to be retained. Well, thank you again for joining us at the HR department. And another week is gone, Kyle, and here we are. We will talk to you again next week, and see you soon. Bye.
Sounds good. Bluefish says goodbye.
Thanks for joining us on the HR Department, powered by HRKyle Services, your trusted partner for HR consulting, outplacement, talent strategy, leadership development, and career coaching. If today's conversation got you thinking, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with anyone navigating the ever-changing world of work. To learn more about our services, whether you're a company leader, an HR pro, or a job seeker, visit HRKyle.com. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, hiring with intention, and showing up for your people.